Going out on their terms. Nearly 2 years after Colorado voters approved the aid in dying law, we are seeing a dramatic increase in terminally ill patients choosing to end their lives.
We also found the steps in the process don't always go so smoothly. From finding doctors to pharmacies to taking the medication, Denver 7's Jacqueline Allen goes 360, looking at multiple perspectives on Colorado's so-called right to die 2 years after becoming legal.
It's a beautiful day.
She always looked at the positive aspects of life.
When the days are lonely.
I miss her spirit.
When Harry Calvino misses his wife.
She fought right till the end.
This Fort Collins ER doctor takes comfort knowing she died the same way she lived.
She wanted to die with dignity, peace, and grace, and I thought that was put pretty well by her.
5 years ago, at 61 years old, Angie Calvino was diagnosed with stage 4 appendix cancer and fought with a vengeance.
She did chemo, she tried experimental treatments, she tried surgery.
Yeah.
Nothing worked.
No, she was in pain all the time. She was on a Dilaudid drip.
When Angie could no longer get out of bed, she said, "It's time." August 19, with her family by her side, she took the medicine. 2 hours later, she was gone.
Angie had that right here to say, listen, I'm going to hang on as long as I can, then it's over.
A growing number of families are using Colorado's so-called right to die law, allowing some terminally ill patients to give themselves medication to end their lives. But the process doesn't always go smoothly. More than 2 years after the law passed, serious obstacles and concerns remain. First, you can't talk about this issue without talking about faith.
We are not masochists, right? We don't like to suffer just for the sake of suffering.
Father Luis Granados at the Catholic Archdiocese of Denver reminds us in his book, this is suicide.
It's not for us to choose the time of our birth, and it's not for us to choose the time of our death.
And suffering can have meaning. Consider the last 10 years of Pope John Paul II.
When he was, not able to speak, he was not able to walk. Through suffering, we learn so many things, and we teach others how to live.
So he's alarmed at the increasing numbers taking this option. In 2017, 69 people in Colorado received prescriptions for aid in dying medications. This year, the numbers aren't final, but the state predicts an up to 40% increase. The vast majority have cancer.
My number one priority every day is to make sure that my patients aren't suffering.
So it bothers Dr. Robert Joddy at Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers that cancer patients are topping the list. He won't prescribe what he calls suicide pills.
In my opinion, that's not death with dignity. That's death. That's suicide.
In his world, oncologists are making advances all the time with molecular diagnostics, targeted therapy that could add quality years to life. And at the end, they can treat pain.
Once you start peeling back those layers and find out what their true fears are, you actually can address the problem.
If the idea is to go in peace, reports of people taking hours or even days to die after ingesting the drugs are also a concern.
What's the longest amount of time that you've heard that it's taken for someone to pass after taking one of these drugs?
The longest I've heard is 8 hours.
Sam DeWitt with Compassion and Choices says part of the problem is the expensive name-brand drug. Secobarbital costs up to $4,000. A drug cocktail costs a few hundred. It's also effective, but can take longer.
So people are saving money, but their death may not be as fast.
Correct.
That's a tough choice to make.
Yes, it is.
The reality is many doctors won't even prescribe these deadly drugs. Many pharmacies won't fill the prescriptions. So patients are coming to Fort Collins Dr. Corey Carroll.
My fear is patients that would really want this and are desperate for it. In certain pockets of the state, there's really no easy avenue for them to have help.
He says dying in America has to change. He's prescribed to 7 patients who wanted to die on their terms.
To me, this is about patient autonomy. It's not about what I believe or what somebody else believes. It's what does the patient believe? What does the patient want?
Do you think it was the right choice?
Absolutely.
Since Angie ended her long fight, her husband has only become more convinced. When the time comes, he will make the same choice.
There's no question you're not going to live. You're going to die. So making that choice of how you're going to do it. That's the key.
And right now, the group Compassion and Choices shows 117 healthcare facilities in 40 towns across Colorado have supportive policies, as well as 26 hospice locations, and those numbers are growing. Among other concerns, opponents say the law needs to be rewritten to allow for better tracking on whether the pills are used or not, so suicide pills won't be left in someone's medicine cabinet.